Hi friends, today I have a Caustic guide on how to play Caustic in Apex Legends Season 8 and beyond. This guide takes into account all of the Caustic nerfs that have come with the Chaos Theory update. So I'll give you some advice on how to adjust your Caustic gameplay style to fit with this nerf. And I feel like this is the perfect time to do a Caustic guide because in Apex Legends at the moment, not only do we have the Chaos Theory event, we also have Caustic's Town Takeover. I would say this guide is perfect for you if you want to start using Caustic in Apex Legends, but perhaps you don't really know how to use him or you're not used to playing him. I would also say even if you are a Caustic main, this video still could be useful because there's some things that definitely a lot of people don't know about that I'm going to share in this video. So let's get into it. Alexander Maxwell Knox, otherwise known as Caustic, is a traditional trap focused character, and your goal is essentially to lure your enemies into your traps. Caustic rewards a slower playstyle, but he also does possess some abilities to split up teams and even pushing teams. So let's start by looking at Caustic's abilities, and I'll give you tips as we go through his abilities. Let's start with Caustic's passives. So Caustic's first passive is Fortified, and this is a passive that applies to all of the bigger legends. And by bigger, we mean legends with a larger hitbox. This passive means Caustic takes 15% less damage and is also immune from slowing effects from weapon fire. The idea of this is to balance him out with other legends who are a little bit smaller and harder to hit. My main tip here is don't overestimate this passive. I know 15% sounds like a lot, but in reality, that 15% only translates to about one shot extra that you can take. So it's not going to be a massive game changer, so just because you have this passive, don't assume that you could automatically take a lot more bullets. In reality, it's only one extra shot, so be careful about that. Try not to get caught out in the open too much as Caustic. Caustic's second passive is Nox Vision. Now this passive works with his tactical and ultimate, and essentially it enables him to gain threat vision on enemies moving through your gas. These enemies are highlighted in green. This passive also makes Caustic immune to the effects of his gas, as well as other Caustic's gas. And one really good tip here that some people don't know about is that Caustic's won't be highlighted in green by the gas. So for example, if you throw your gas down or you deploy your tactical and it goes off, if another Caustic walks through the gas, you won't see that other Caustic highlighted in green. So just be aware of this, because normally people expect all enemies to be highlighted in green because of this passive. But like I said, that doesn't actually apply to enemy Caustics, so be aware of that. And also note, the other Caustics will be able to see your teammates through the gas with their passive, and that's also why the saying that the only way to beat a Caustic is with a Caustic, for this very reason. And one other thing I'll add about this passive is that this doesn't really work like Bloodhound's scan. So for example, if gas is going on behind an object or through walls, you won't actually get your vision, and also obviously your teammates won't see that vision. It just applies to you as Caustic. And one other really great tip for this passive is that you can actually combine it with Bangalore Smoke. You see, if a team is hiding in Bangalore Smoke, you can use your Caustic gas and this passive to be able to tell and see the enemies inside the Bangalore Smoke. So essentially it's a way of countering Bangalore Smoke. So it's just a smart way of using the passive. Next, let's look at Caustic's tactical. So Caustic's tactical is the Nox gas trap. You can place up to 6 canisters that release deadly Nox gas when shot or triggered by enemies. You can get 3 charges or barrels, each with a 25-second cooldown time per charge. The good thing here is that you can pick up unused traps and they immediately give you a slot back. So for example, if you put 3 gas traps down and then you pick all 3 of them up, you won't have to wait for that 25-second cooldown time. Some important things to know are that your enemies will be slowed by the gas and they won't be able to sprint, so it's a good way to slow down teams. Enemies will also take 5 damage per second with the new update, and this is the nerf I was referring to at the start of the video, because previously it was 6 to 12 damage that you would take from the gas, but like I said, now it's been reduced to 5. And one thing is, if you're new to the game, you should know that your teammates won't be affected by your own gas. They'll still be affected by enemy gas, but not by your own. I should also add that this reduced damage means it does take 2 full barrels to down an enemy, whereas as previously, 1 barrel could be enough to down an enemy. And in case you didn't know, the gas does only affect health, it doesn't affect shields. So for example, if someone's got purple shields and full health, the gas will reduce their health, but it will still leave them with full purple shields. And you also need to be quite careful when you're throwing the barrels, because if someone shoots them, they do get destroyed if they're not fully formed when they're shooting at them. And the other way to destroy Caustic barrels is also to shoot the bottom of the barrel when they're fully deployed. So you do want to be a bit more strategic with how you're using your barrels. And that's why a good main tip for using the barrels is to actually deploy them ahead of time. Try and think strategically around where you want to position and put your Caustic barrels down before you start a fight. Another really good tip that I feel a lot of people don't know about is that Caustic's gas will actually damage Watson's pylons and perimeter nodes. So essentially her fences and her pylons will be destroyed by Caustic gas. Obviously this is enemy Caustic gas, so for example, if someone's on your team that's a Watson and you've got your Caustic gas down going off, it won't affect your friendly pylons or perimeter nodes, it will only affect enemy pylons or enemy perimeter nodes, and the perimeter nodes are the fences, by the way. And I should also add, the gas barrels will stop Lifeline's healing drone, it will also deal damage to Crypto's drone and Rampart's barriers, so the gas is actually useful in dealing damage to some of the other Legends tacticals and even ultimates. Another tip for the barrels is to place them down where you don't have cover. You can actually use Caustic's tactical as cover, especially when peeking an enemy, or like I said, if you're in a place that doesn't really have cover and it's a little bit open, get your barrels down early and use them as cover. Now, as I mentioned the nerf to the damage previously in this video, like I said, you want to think a bit more strategically about how you deploy your barrels. After the recent nerf, I have noticed teams aren't quite as scared of the Caustic gas as they were before. So now it's a good idea to start blocking doorways with the Caustic gas. Now obviously there's two ways to do this. You can just block the doors themselves, so if you still have a door in the way, put the Caustic barrel directly behind the door and it will stop the enemies opening the door. This is a great way to buy yourself time to heal, or just allow you to reposition. The other thing is, if the door has been blown off, you can still use the barrel to block the door. You see, in most doorways, particularly the single doorways, if you get a barrel in the middle of the doorway, players won't be able to climb over it. So again, it's just a good way to block some doors if you have a building with a lot of doors and you're not able to cover all of them. And a final tip for the Caustic traps is that it's actually sometimes a good idea to shoot them yourself. You see, it's become increasingly easier for enemies to destroy the barrels. A lot of people know now that you need to shoot the bottom of the barrel to destroy them without deploying the gas. And if you desperately need cover, or you think an enemy team is close, or they're pushing you quite hard, it's a good idea to get your trap down and shoot it to set off the gas yourself. And this will ensure that you've got enough cover to either get away or to heal. And it's something I feel people don't do enough of. And one final thing I will say for Caustic's tactical is that they're not just great for defending areas, you can actually use them almost like a tracker to see if enemy teams are pushing behind you. And by this I mean it's a good idea if you drop 1 or 2 barrels as you're moving and repositioning, drop them behind you so then you can tell if they're triggered, and if you hear they've been triggered, that means you know an enemy team is pushing behind you. So it's also quite a useful tracking tool to cover your backs as a squad. Okay, so that's Caustic's tactical, and it's definitely one of the best defensive tools in the game. But next, let's look at Caustic's ultimate ability. So Caustic's ultimate ability is the Nox gas grenade. The gas grenade is essentially the same kind of gas as the tactical, but instead of throwing barrels down, you've got a grenade which detonates and covers a much wider surface area than the barrels. It's also a lot faster to deploy than the Caustic tactical, and apart from Watson's ultimate, grenade can't be stopped by anything. One key tip here is to not see the gas grenade as a way to wipe a squad or deal damage. Use it as a zoning tool and try to use it in confined spaces. So for example, if you're defending a building and you want some cover or time to heal, then you can throw it down straight in front of you and it will give you some cover. It's also not a bad tool to push teams. Obviously enemies can't see through the gas, so if you want time or cover to push a team, perhaps if they're in a building or in a confined space, then it's a good idea to use the gas grenade. Another tip here is that you can use it to finish off opponents. It's easier to throw the gas grenade at a greater distance than the Caustic barrels, and sometimes it's hard to finish a downed opponent if you don't have line of sight, or if you know the enemy team are pushing in and you just want to finish off one opponent that you've downed, you can use your gas to finish it off while you get to safety, perhaps in a building or behind cover. My final top tip for the ultimate is try saving it for the last few rounds. For example, if you're in ring 5 and you know ring 6 is closing in, you might want to save it right for the end of ring 5 or at the start of ring 6. When the zone is quite confined, this tactical becomes very strong. Not only does it deal damage in the end, it also stops people healing off for victories, and also makes it harder for them to see you in a tight space, which is perfect if there's a final ring where there isn't any cover. You can throw your Caustic gas grenade down and it actually provides you with that cover you need, and obviously as Caustic you can see the enemies highlighted, so it makes it a lot easier in the final rings. Now overall, I would say Caustic is still a very strong legend this season, even after the nerf that came with the Chaos Theory. If you use him as he's been intended, defensive purposes, in confined spaces, use it as a zoning tool rather than with the intention to do damage, you can really make great use of Caustic in a team, not just in ranked, but you can also have a lot of fun in pubs as well. I hope you found this guide useful, and I hope it helps you get better and understand how to use Caustic in Apex Legends Season 8. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button, come join our community of friends. For now though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.